This is going to be a burden this next year and all that's going to come with it. The only question is, will it be a joyful one? Hey everybody, Rabbi David here. How you doing? Your Torah tech guy, and I'm here as always to share with you great tech for your great Torah. So here's what I want to talk about this week. I want to talk about a joyful burden. Now you probably saw the cover art, right? This next year, as this past year was, this year is going to be like pushing a stone up a mountain. It's not going to be easy for any of us. It's going to feel burdensome. The question for me is it going to be a joyful burden or a painful burden? That's really what I'm thinking about. And today what I wanted to do is I wanted to respond in particular to a piece that I read. It's from the CCAR, which is the Reform Rabbinical Arm, and they put out this piece called Guidelines for Reopening After the Pandemic. It's a responsa, it's a tshuva about how we should approach reopening. And they really do a masterful job in here of analyzing the different halachic, the different Jewish legal questions around reopening, under what circumstances we should and under what circumstances we shouldn't. It talks about different benchmarks, if you will, right, for how we should make decisions. It's a beautifully written paper. I did struggle, though, with the tone. And so what I want to do is I just want to share a couple of examples with you so that we can kind of look at them together and you can tell me if you think I'm crazy. All right. So I want to read one piece. Now, bear in mind I'm taking this out of context, but I think you'll get the idea. All right. So here's how it starts. As we stand at this inflection point, sorry, this is not how the responsa starts. This is me starting. As we stand at this inflection point, we therefore, thinking about how to reemerge from the isolation of the pandemic, our first obligation is to do no harm to our bonds of physical community. We celebrate the ways in which the internet enabled our synagogue communities to grow and even in some ways to thrive during this past year. But we want to think intentionally and carefully about how to use this new technology to strengthen and not weaken our physical communities. It goes on to say, our guiding principle should always be ma'alin b'kodesh ve'ein moridin, that we should, in matters of holiness, we should increase rather than decrease, which is one of the arguments as to why we increase the number of candles that we light on Hanukkah instead of decrease, because we should always increase joy, holiness rather. So I really just kind of want to pick on one word in here. It's the word but. Right? We celebrate the ways in which the internet enabled our synagogue communities to grow and even in some ways to thrive during this past year, but we want to think intentionally and carefully about how to use this new technology. The word but is such a powerful word, and I love that in Hebrew, a little vav is both but and. It means both. When you say but, you negate everything that you just said. So in this responsa, well, I don't know that they intended to, but in this responsa, when they say, oh, it's been wonderful, it's allowed us to thrive, but let's be careful, it says, about how we use this new technology to strengthen and not weaken our physical communities. I want to share one more piece with you. All right, here it goes. Thus we realize, this is at the end, by the way, thus we realize that we cannot say, nor do we wish to say, then in the aftermath of the emergency, it is no longer appropriate to hold a virtual minyan. You know my issues with the word virtual. As liberal Jews, we are committed to integrating our Torah with the reality of contemporary life, not bifurcating the two. And then it goes on. We recognize the possibility of the slippery slope. We do not want to facilitate the fragmentation of local communities, especially small communities, by encouraging individuals to, say, log into a service somewhere in place of supporting their local congregation. Most crucially, we are not ignoring or minimizing the difference between gathering in person and gathering in cyberspace. And it concludes, the joy we are all now experiencing now as we find ourselves in the physical presence of family, friends, colleagues, and students, as we are able to see each other face to face and to touch, should be a continual reminder that while virtual connection is valuable, it's a valuable supplement for maintaining community. It can never be the only or even the primary vehicle for community. Yes, 100%, it cannot be the only or primary vehicle for community. But, and I kind of meant that but there. Wow. This feels to me like we're fighting for a system, we're fighting for a structure that is changing beneath our feet, and it's making us uncomfortable that it's changing. The idea that we should not encourage people to daven wherever they like, to learn wherever they like, because they now can. We could before, but now we all realize that we can. The idea that we wouldn't want to encourage that instead of discourage it for the sake of saving our smaller congregations just seems again to be missing the bigger picture of what's happening. Now, don't get me wrong. I've served small congregations my entire life. I get it. I understand how difficult times are right now for small congregations. I absolutely get that. I work in one right now, a relatively small congregation. But I also don't think that we can just stick our heads in the sand and try and go back to what was normal. I'm working on a new class now called Don't Go Back to Normal, Please. The idea that we would encourage people to not daven wherever they find meaning, wherever they find spirituality, just seems crazy to me. The idea that we wouldn't see this moment in time as a joyful burden. It's going to be hard. It's going to take extra work. It's going to take investment. It's going to take creativity. It's going to be pushing a boulder up a mountain. But maybe we could find some joy in that. Maybe we can celebrate that. This moment can be a moment that we celebrate. This doesn't have to be a hemming and hawing about, digital minyanim or digital services, digital classes are going to take away from the in-person experience. No one is suggesting that we do everything online. But why wouldn't we encourage people to access this however they can, our Torah? The Reform movement itself wants us to call it multi-access. When I read this tshuva, as beautifully written as it was, I felt like it was multi-access, but one was better than the other. In-person is better than digital. And that's just not the way I see it. I think they're different. They offer different experiences. Not everyone's going to appreciate a digital experience, and some people would really prefer that over a physical, on-site experience. What I want to try and do is teach communities, teach rabbis and leaders and educators that this moment is one that we should be joyful about. This opportunity that we have to think differently about how we share Torah, about how we inspire, about how we build community, about how we reach Jews. This is a moment that is going to feel burdensome, and we have a choice. Are we going to make that joyful or painful? I'm going to choose joy. Every time I'm going to choose joy. Speaking of joy, I'm going to be taking a few weeks off, kind of. I'm actually going to Camp Ramah Darom. Yay, Ramah Darom. I'm going to be going up to Ramah Darom for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. So I will still be on. I hope I'll still be able to do these. I'm bringing all my equipment with me. I don't know what the internet's going to be like up there in the mountains of Georgia. So if you don't see me, it's only because the internet stinks. But hopefully you will see me. But this Friday, I'm so excited about this. I get to invite Evelyn Goldfinger, master puppeteer, singer, teacher, to join me on Unmute. That's going to be the last of this season, and then please God, B'ezrat Hashem will pick up in the fall. But I do hope that you'll join me for that. That's going to be Friday at 1 o'clock. Until next time, my friends, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. I will see you on Friday at Unmute, and then hopefully with enough internet connection, we'll continue pushing this boulder up the mountain together, one smile at a time. What do you say? See you later.